The stars outside the window of the alien ship looked cold and endless. The black sea of space stretched forever, lit only by the glow of nearby galaxies. In that silence, a single silver ship drifted closer to Earth. Its shape was smooth and elegant, like a living creature moving through the night sky. Inside the ship sat a young alien girl. She was not like the humans she was sent to study. Her skin shimmered faintly with soft blue light, and strange glowing patterns ran across her arms and neck. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, bright and filled with curiosity, yet behind them was a question so powerful that even her people could not answer. Her name was unpronounceable in human language, but Earth would one day know her as Cosmic Cutie. Her mission was strange. She had not been sent to study war, weapons, or politics. No, her leaders wanted her to learn something very different, something humans took for granted: humor. The alien council believed that laughter was not just noise. They believed it was a power, a hidden weapon that gave humans strength in times of pain and crisis, but no one among her race could understand it. They had studied Earth's history, its battles, its science, but the sound of humans laughing remained a mystery. As her ship broke through Earth's atmosphere, she repeated her orders in her mind. Go to them, watch them, learn why they laugh, and report back. Fail, and you do not return. Her heart, if it could be called that, beat faster. The ship slipped silently through the night sky, unseen by the humans below. City lights stretched across the land like veins of gold and silver. She guided her craft to the edge of a neon-lit district, where music and voices filled the air. From above, she saw bright signs, glowing streets, and the movement of countless humans. She whispered to herself, testing human words she had practiced. Hello, joke, funny, laugh. The sounds were clumsy on her tongue, but she would learn. She had to learn. The ship landed quietly on a rooftop, hidden behind metal towers and humming machines. The young alien stepped out, her black form-fitting dress catching the glow of neon lights. It was designed to make her look more human, but her beauty was beyond ordinary. Her glowing patterns and elegant figure drew the eye instantly. With a deep breath, she walked down into the streets. The city was alive with sound and color. Music pulsed from bars. Laughter spilled into the night air, and strange machines rolled past on glowing wheels. Every sound was sharp to her ears. Every smell, food, smoke, perfume, was strange and powerful. She followed the sound of laughter, her steps careful, her eyes wide. Finally, she found the place, a bar filled with humans. Their voices loud, their smiles wide. Bottles glowed. On the shelves, lights flickered across polished metal walls, and in the corner, a group of humans laughed so hard that tears ran from their eyes. Cosmic Cutie froze at the door. Her mission had truly begun, but fear touched her mind. What if she failed? What if she never understood? Her people had no humor, no laughter. To them, life was duty, survival, logic. Yet here were humans, laughing loudly over something small and meaningless. One man slapped another on the back after telling a story, and they both nearly fell off their chairs from joy. She did not understand it, and that scared her. Still, she stepped inside. The humans noticed her immediately. How could they not? She was different, glowing faintly under the bar lights, her smile too perfect, her eyes too bright. But instead of fear, they gave curious looks. Some whispered, some stared. She moved to the counter and sat down, her movements graceful, almost hypnotic. The bartender, a man with tired eyes and a friendly smile, walked over. What'll it be? He asked. She blinked. She had studied human speech, but small questions like this still confused her. Slowly, she repeated, "What it be?" The man laughed softly, thinking she was joking. "A drink. Something to sip. What do you want?" Her lips curved into a small smile. She had not meant to be funny, but already someone had laughed. Maybe she was closer to her mission than she thought. The bartender placed a glowing drink in front of her. She stared at it, watching the bubbles rise. Around her, humans continued to laugh, their voices blending into a strange music. Cosmic Cutie tilted her head, her eyes narrowing with focus. This is it. This is the sound. This is the mystery. She would find the answer. She would uncover the secret of human laughter, no matter what it cost. But deep in her chest, she felt something strange. Was it fear, excitement, or was it the beginning of something even her people had never known? The night was only beginning, and already the air was thick with mystery. Her quest had begun. The neon lights from the bar cast soft colors across the alien girl's face as she sat at the counter, her glowing eyes watching every human movement with sharp curiosity. The drink in front of her fizzed and sparkled, but she hardly noticed. What truly pulled her attention was the sound, the ripple of laughter that kept bursting out from groups of humans around the room. It was messy, unpredictable, and powerful. Each time it rose and fell, it carried an energy she could almost feel in her skin. She turned slightly and studied a man at the far corner. His body shimmered faintly with metallic implants. Steel plates ran along his arms and the side of his face. His voice was deep, his laughter booming, yet softened by something almost warm. He caught her gaze and tilted his head, as if surprised by the way she looked at him. Then he grinned, and in that grin she saw a challenge. He stood and walked toward her. The crowd parted naturally, some whispering about the strange woman in the black dress, who seemed both too human and not human at all. He pulled up the chair beside her and sat down with a mechanical whir. "You're new," he said, his voice calm but curious. She blinked, words forming slowly. "Yes, new." The man chuckled and raised a hand. "Name's Jax. You?" Her lips parted. She remembered the warning from her training. Do not reveal your true name. It carried sounds and meanings humans could never understand. So she gave a different answer. Soft and playful. "Cosmic cutie." Jax raised his eyebrows. He laughed again, this time with a shake of his head. "That's a hell of a name." She leaned forward slightly, watching his face carefully. "Why, hell of a name?" "It's just an expression," he explained, waving a cybernetic hand. "Means your name's wild, memorable, not bad." She stored the words in her memory, turning them over like puzzle pieces. Every sound, every phrase felt like part of a secret code around them. The laughter grew louder as another group roared at a joke. She tilted her head toward the noise. "Why they laugh?" she asked. Jax followed her gaze. A man was telling a story with wild hand gestures, clearly exaggerating some event. The group clapped and shouted, bending forward in delight. Jax smirked. "He's telling a joke, making fun of something stupid that happened." "Fun of?" she repeated. "Yeah, you take something normal, twist it, exaggerate it, and suddenly it's funny. People laugh because it's unexpected, or maybe because they see themselves in it." Cosmic Cutie stared, her glowing patterns shifting slightly across her skin as if alive. She understood the words, but not the meaning. Why would humans enjoy making fun of mistakes? Why would they celebrate embarrassment? Her race had spent centuries avoiding weakness, hiding flaws, perfecting themselves here. Humans threw flaws into the open and laughed at them. "Do you laugh?" she asked him. Jax's smile softened. "Sure, helps keep me sane." She leaned closer. "What is sane? Not losing your mind," he said with a chuckle. Again, she stored the phrase away. Her mind buzzed with confusion and curiosity. Every answer led to more questions. Every sound of laughter pressed deeper into her chest, pulling at something she did not yet understand. The bartender returned and placed another drink in front of Jax. "You trying to explain humor again?" he teased. Jax grinned. She asked, "Cosmic?" Cutie turned sharply toward the bartender. "You explain." The man laughed, shaking his head. "Sweetheart, you either get it or you don't. Can't teach laughter." Her eyes widened slightly. Can't teach, but that was her mission. That was why she was here. Her glowing hand curled around her glass, gripping it tightly. She had to try. She looked back at Jax, determination flickering in her eyes. "Teach me. Tell me joke." Jax studied her for a moment, then leaned back with a half smile. "All right, but don't say I didn't warn you. Human jokes can be weird." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Why don't skeletons fight each other?" She stared at him, silent, waiting. "Because they don't have the guts." The bar went quiet in her mind, though laughter bubbled. From a nearby table, she replayed his words carefully. "Skeleton's bones, no flesh. guts missing. The meaning struck her as strange, almost absurd. She blinked, her lips parting slightly. Funny? Jax asked. She tilted her head, struggling. At last she forced out a small sound, something like a laugh, though awkward and mechanical. Humans nearby glanced over, unsure if she was mocking or imitating them. Jax raised his eyebrows. That was something. Her face grew serious. Not understand. Why? People laugh. Because it's silly, Jax explained. Because it surprises you. Because sometimes it makes no sense at all, and that's what makes it great. She leaned back slowly, her glowing patterns dimming. The weight of the mission pressed harder now. If laughter made no sense, how could she ever explain it to her people? But then, as Jax smiled and took a sip of his drink, she felt something shift inside her. For the first time, she wondered if understanding wasn't about logic or rules. Maybe it was about feeling. Maybe it was about being human, even for a moment. Her quest had only just begun, and already she felt herself caught between confusion and discovery. The bar grew louder, brighter, filled with waves of laughter she still could not understand. Yet in the middle of that chaos, she felt something she had never felt before, the beginning of a connection. And for the first time, she wondered, maybe laughter was not only the sound of joy, maybe it was the sound of survival. The night stretched on, and the alien girl remained in the bar, her glowing eyes fixed on every laugh, every smile, every sudden burst of noise that humans seemed to release without warning. She had repeated the skeleton joke again and again inside her head. It was still strange, it was still wrong, yet the humans had laughed, and that made it powerful. She needed to find a way to create that same sound. Her mind replayed Jax's words, "You either get it or you don't." That answer was unacceptable. She had not traveled across light years to return empty. She had to get it, even if it meant failing in front of everyone here. The glass in her hand shimmered with neon reflections as she raised it, cleared her throat, and stood. Her graceful form drew every eye. Conversations dimmed. Even the music seemed to soften. Humans turned to see the strange, glowing woman in the black dress. She spoke slowly, her words uneven, her voice carrying a faint accent no one could place. "I tell joke." The crowd exchanged curious looks. Someone chuckled nervously, whispering, "Is she serious?" Another shouted, "Go on then." She searched her mind, pulling fragments of human language she had studied from old recordings. She had heard a phrase, something about chickens and roads. That might work. Why? She began, pausing as all eyes locked on her. Why did the bird cross Metal Street? A silence hung in the air. A few smiles appeared. Waiting for the punchline, she swallowed hard and forced the next line. Because it want other side. The bar went silent. No laughter. Only blank stares and a cough from somewhere in the back. Her glowing patterns dimmed. She felt the sting of failure pressing against her chest. But then a drunk man at a table slapped his leg and burst out laughing. "Oh my God," he wheezed. She butchered it, but that was brilliant. The tension cracked. A few others joined in, not laughing at the joke itself, but at the awkward way she had told it. The wrong pauses, the odd wording, the strange seriousness of her glowing eyes. Soon the laughter rolled through the bar, not because her joke was good, but because it was so badly delivered. She blinked in surprise. They were laughing at her, but not in the way she had expected. Was this success or failure? Jax leaned back in his chair, shaking his head with a grin. "Well, cosmic cutie, that's one way to do it." Her voice trembled with confusion. "They laugh. But why?" "Because it was awkward. Because you didn't mean for it to be funny. And that made it even better," he explained. Her glowing patterns pulsed, betraying her frustration. She had wanted to master humor, not become the joke herself. Yet at the same time, she felt something stir inside her. Even failure had created laughter. Even mistakes had power. She decided she would try again. Raising her hand, she spoke louder. "Another joke." The crowd leaned forward, curious. She thought quickly, her mind scrambling through fragments of English. "Human, eat pizza. Pizza, eat human. No, wrong. Wait." The words tumbled out, broken and jumbled. A few people started giggling, shaking their heads. "What is she even saying?" One man muttered through laughter. Another wiped his eyes, already laughing harder than he should. She frowned deeply. She had lost control of the joke again. But the more she failed, the more the humans laughed. They were enjoying her mistakes, her strange delivery, her seriousness mixed with nonsense. Jax placed his metal hand on the counter, laughing so hard his implants hissed with pressure release. "Cutie, I don't think you realize that you're killing them. Not with the joke itself, but with the way you're trying. That's comedy too." Her lips parted. "Trying is comedy. Sometimes, yeah," he said between laughs. "It's not just the punchline. It's the timing, the delivery, the surprise. People laugh at the unexpected. And right now, you're the most unexpected thing in this room." She stood frozen, the truth washing over her. Her people had always avoided mistakes, avoided embarrassment, avoided anything that made them appear weak. Yet here, humans embraced it. They turned flaws into entertainment. They laughed at imperfection. Slowly, she sat down again, her glowing skin shifting as she processed this new idea. For the first time, she felt the shape of human humor not as a formula to memorize, but as something alive, something messy and unpredictable. The laughter faded into quiet conversation, but the humans continued to smile at her, nodding with approval, treating her not as an outsider, but as part of the room. Inside her chest, that strange feeling returned. It was not shame, and not pride. It was something new, something closer to belonging. She looked at Jax, her voice soft. "Maybe I can learn." He smiled warmly, his mechanical eye glowing faintly. "You're already learning. You just don't know it yet." Her gaze drifted back to the laughing humans. She was no longer just observing. She was now part of the strange, unpredictable rhythm of humor. Every mistake, every awkward attempt, every failed punchline was pulling her closer to the truth. Her mission had not failed. It had only taken its first awkward step. And as the night deepened, she realized something both terrifying and thrilling. To truly understand human humor, she would have to risk losing control. She would have to fall, fail, and laugh with them. The quest was no longer a study. It was a transformation. The city outside the bar had fallen into silence, but Cosmic Cutie could not rest. She sat in a small room lit by a single neon sign that blinked through the window. The humans had offered her a place to stay for the night, a narrow space above the bar with a bed that felt too soft and walls that carried the echoes of laughter below. She had replayed the events of the evening again and again. Every sound, every chuckle, every burst of laughter echoed in her mind like a puzzle she could not solve. On the table in front of her sat a small device, human technology she had borrowed from Jax. A data pad, glowing with light. She had connected it to recordings, comedy shows, stand-up performances, films from Earth's archives. She pressed play, and the room filled with the voice of a man standing on a stage. "So I told my wife," the comedian said, "if you don't like my cooking, maybe the dog will." The crowd roared with laughter. Cutie leaned forward, her glowing eyes narrowing. She repeated the words softly. "If you not like cooking, maybe dog will." Her head tilted. Confused, why did humans find this funny? The man had failed. At cooking, was that not shameful? Why celebrate failure with laughter? She switched recordings. Another comedian appeared. Ever notice how humans try to look cool when slipping on ice? But it just makes them fall harder. The crowd exploded in laughter again. She sat very still, slipping, falling, humiliation. Yet instead of crying, instead of anger, humans responded with joy. They turned pain into entertainment. Her glowing patterns flickered across her arms as the truth sank in. It was not only jokes. Humor was hidden in accidents, in mistakes, in the very moments her people feared most. Humans laughed because they refused to be crushed by weakness. Their laughter was not denial, it was survival. She whispered softly, her voice almost trembling. "They laugh because it is how they fight pain." But the more she understood, the more questions opened inside her mind. Why did this power exist only in humans? What gave them the ability to transform sadness into joy? The door creaked, pulling her out of thought. Jax leaned against the frame, his cybernetic arm catching the neon glow. He carried 2 cups, one steaming with a strange human drink. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. "Sleep, no. 2. Many laughs, he chuckled, setting the cup in front of her. That's the first time I've heard anyone say laughter kept them awake. She pointed to the screen. They laugh at pain, at shame. Why? Jax sat across from her, taking a long sip. His expression softened. Because if you don't laugh, you break, you fall apart. Humor's like armor. The world throws pain at you. But if you can laugh at it, it loses some of its power. Her glowing eyes fixed on him, unblinking. Armor of sound, exactly, he said with a small smile. Not everyone gets it, not even all humans. But the ones who do, they're the ones who keep going. She looked back at the recordings, watching another crowd burst into laughter. The sound no longer felt random. It felt like energy, like a shield against despair. Her people had spent centuries perfecting control, avoiding emotion. Yet maybe humans had discovered something stronger, the freedom to laugh. Even when the universe tried to crush them, her chest tightened with a strange, unfamiliar warmth. Could this laughter become part of her? She tried again. She shaped. Her lips forced a small sound, a weak imitation of human laughter. It came out broken, sharp, wrong. Jax winced, then grinned. Not quite, but you're getting closer. Her glowing patterns pulsed. She was frustrated, but also fascinated. She had not expected this mission to touch her so deeply. The night carried on, and together they watched more recordings. She observed how people laughed at themselves, at their friends, at the universe. She began to see patterns, not in the words themselves, but in the rhythm, the surprise. The way laughter spread like fire through a crowd. At one point, Jax told her a story of his own. When I first got these implants, he said, tapping his metal arm, I was terrified people would stare. One kid pointed at me and said I looked like a broken toaster. Everyone laughed, even me. That was the moment I realized if you laugh first, nobody can hurt you with their words. She stared at him, eyes glowing brighter. Laugh first, win first, exactly, he said, smiling. For the first time, she felt a ripple of understanding. Humor was not only about words. It was about power, about control over fear. She whispered. Again, her voice steady. Laughter is survival. Jax nodded slowly. Now you're starting to get it. But in the silence that followed, her mind darkened with another thought. If laughter was survival, then her people who had never laughed were defenseless, vulnerable. What would happen if they learned this secret? Would it change them or destroy them? Her mission suddenly felt heavier. The truth she was beginning to uncover was not just knowledge, it was dangerous knowledge. The neon light flickered across her face as she sat in silence. Her glowing patterns dimmed and brightened like shifting waves. She had come seeking answers, and now she stood at the edge of something far bigger than she had imagined. And somewhere deep inside, for the first time, a strange sound tried to rise from her throat. Not forced, not practiced. A soft, shaky laugh, half alien, half human. Jax heard it and smiled. There it is, that's the start. But she did not smile, because she now understood the truth. Laughter was not just a sound, it was a weapon, and her people would want to use it. The message arrived in the middle of the night. A thin silver device on her wrist blinked with pale light, and a voice from across the stars filled the room. It was cold, commanding, and full of weight. Report. What have you learned about human laughter? Cosmic Cutie froze, her glowing skin patterns dimming. She glanced at Jax, asleep in the chair beside the door, his cybernetic arm humming softly in rest mode. She did not want him to hear. She tapped the device and whispered back, still learning. Humans laugh at pain, at mistakes, at themselves. A long silence followed. Then the voice said, you must demonstrate, show proof. By the next cycle, you will make them laugh. If you fail, the mission is over. The light faded. Leaving her chest heavy, she turned her eyes to the window. Outside, neon signs blinked in the rain, and faint music drifted up from the bar below. The thought of failing burned inside her. She had tasted the beginning of laughter, but she did not yet control it. Now she had one chance. By morning, Jax was awake, watching her with sharp eyes. You're troubled, he said simply. She hesitated, then nodded. They want proof. They want me to make humans laugh. Not mistake laugh, real laugh. Jax leaned forward, his mechanical eye glowing softly. So it's a test, and you're not ready. Her glowing patterns flickered with frustration. I must be ready. I cannot fail. He smirked. Then you'll need help. Humor's not easy. But if you're brave enough, we can try. She watched him carefully. You teach, not teach, Jax replied. Guide, the rest. You figure out by doing. The night came quickly, and the bar was full once more. Music pulsed. Voices clashed, and laughter already rolled like thunder. Cutie sat at the counter, her heart o'er the alien thing that pulsed like a heart beating hard. Jax stood at her side, nodding with encouragement. This is your stage, he whispered. Don't think too much. Feel it. Humans can tell when you're real. She rose slowly. The crowd noticed immediately. Her beauty, her glow, the way she moved it silenced the room. Glasses froze midair, conversations ended, and all eyes turned to her. She spoke, her voice trembling at first. I want tell story. The silence deepened. A few people chuckled, remembering her clumsy attempts before. She drew a slow breath, steadying herself. Human man, walk in storm, rain, wind, clothes all wet. He say, she paused, mimicking a deep voice. At least my shoes still dry. Then, he step in puddle. For a moment, nothing. Then someone laughed, then another. The sound spread like sparks catching fire. The image of a man trying to stay positive, only to be undone by a puddle, connected with them. Her voice grew stronger. He say, not funny, but all people laugh. Why? Because human weakness is strong. The crowd erupted, some laughing at her odd delivery, others laughing at the truth in her words. Jax's grin widened. He clapped, leading the applause. She felt it then, energy rising from the humans, pouring into her like heat. This was not awkward laughter. This was real. They were laughing with her, not at her. Her glowing patterns flared brightly across her skin. She spoke louder, her voice steady now. Humans fall. Humans fail. But always, they laugh. And laugh again. This is powerful. The bar roared with approval. People shouted, clapped, even stomped their feet. Someone yelled, tell another one. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. She had passed the test. But the device on her wrist blinked again. A silent message scrolled across it. Good. Continue. Learn more. Then return. She closed her hand over the device, hiding it. A cold knot formed inside her. Her people would not see laughter as joy. They would see it as a weapon, a shield that made humans harder to break. As the humans cheered, she wondered, was she helping her people or betraying humanity? The night pressed on, and she remained among them. She listened to more jokes, felt the rhythm of laughter rise and fall, and even tried a few of her own. Each time, she grew braver. Each time, the sound filled her chest with something she could not name. Jax leaned close, his voice low beneath the noise. You did it. You made them laugh for real. How does it feel? She turned her glowing eyes toward him, her voice soft. It feels alive. He nodded, smiling. That's the secret. Laughter makes you feel alive. Even in the darkest times, her gaze drifted back to the crowd, her mind spinning with thoughts. She had achieved her mission, yet a deeper question now haunted her. If laughter was survival, what would happen when her people learned it? Would they embrace it, or twist it into something dangerous? The test was complete, but the real challenge had only just begun. And somewhere deep inside, under the roar of human joy, she felt a shiver of fear. Because once you understood laughter, you could never go back to silence. The morning after the test, the city was quiet. Rain washed the neon signs, and the streets glistened like mirrors of liquid color. Cosmic Cutie stood by the window of her small room, watching humans hurry through puddles, umbrellas twisting in the wind. They stumbled, slipped, and cursed, and yet some of them smiled through it all. She whispered softly to herself, almost in awe, they laugh, even when cold, even when wet. Jax entered with 2 steaming cups of bitter-smelling human drink. He placed one on the table and leaned against the wall, his mechanical arm gleaming. In the soft light, you did good last night, he said, voice steady. People are still talking about you. She turned her glowing eyes toward him. But did I understand? He smirked, sipping his drink. not fully understanding. Humor doesn't come in a single night. It's not about study, it's about living it. Her glowing patterns flickered with confusion. Living. Humor, exactly, he said. You don't just tell jokes, you feel them. You laugh with people, not at them. And sometimes laughter sneaks up on you when you least expect it. Those words echoed inside her. Laughter sneaks up. It was not control, it was release. Her people had never released anything. They held everything inside, locked behind duty and silence. Could she let go? Could she surrender to something so chaotic? That night, she returned to the bar with Jax. The atmosphere was different, livelier, warmer. Word had spread of the strange glowing woman who tried jokes in her broken accent. People welcomed her with smiles and curious glances. Some shouted, "Tell us another one." Others clapped as she walked by. For the first time, she felt something unusual, acceptance. She sat among them, not apart, but within the crowd. Drinks clinked, stories flew, and laughter rolled like thunder. At first she observed, as always, analyzing. But soon, something changed. A man at the next table began telling a story about his attempt to cook dinner. His description grew wild flames. In the kitchen, smoke alarms blaring, his cat jumping onto the ceiling. He exaggerated so much that the table shook with laughter. She leaned forward, her glowing eyes wide. Then it happened. The man mimicked the cat's terrified face, complete with a squeaky noise. It was so absurd, so unexpected, that her chest tightened. A strange sound escaped her lips, small, unplanned, sharp, a laugh. The humans around her froze for half a second, then burst into cheers. She laughed. Someone shouted, "Did you hear that?" Her hand flew to her mouth, but it was too late. The sound had escaped, and it came again, stronger this time, rolling out of her like music she had never known. Her body shook, her glowing patterns pulsed brighter, and she laughed freely, wildly, uncontrollably. The bar exploded with joy. People clapped, shouted, and laughed with her, not at her. It was no longer an experiment. It was real. Jax leaned in close, his grin wide. "There it is. You've got it now. That's not imitation, that's the real thing." She gasped for air, her laughter slowly fading into soft breaths. For a long moment, she sat frozen, stunned by what had happened. Her entire being felt lighter, as if chains had been broken. Her voice trembled. "What was that?" Jax tapped his chest. "That's laughter, pure and simple. Now you know why we love it." Tears she did not understand filled her glowing eyes. She whispered, "It feels like light inside, like falling, but safe." He nodded. "That's it. Laughter is falling together. Nobody stands alone." Her mind reeled. All her life, her people had stood alone, isolated, perfect, untouched by weakness. Now she knew the truth. Weakness was not death. Weakness could be shared. And in that sharing, it became strength. The device on her wrist pulsed faintly. A reminder. Her people waited for her report. They wanted laughter as a weapon, as armor. But here, among humans, she understood it was not meant to be weaponized. It was a bridge, a bond, a force that tied strangers together. She felt torn between duty and discovery. Should she return with this secret, knowing her people would twist it? Or should she protect it, even if it meant betraying her mission? The humans continued laughing, unaware of her conflict. Someone poured her a drink. Another patted her back. For once, she was not the observer. She was part of the chaos, part of the joy. Her glowing eyes softened as she looked at Jax. "If laughter is survival," she said slowly, "then humans are unbreakable." He raised his cup in agreement. "Now you see why we're still here." She smiled faintly, though. Her chest ached with the weight of choice. For the first time, she had laughed. For the first time, she had lived humor instead of chasing it. And for the first time, she feared what her people would do with the truth. The night roared on. But inside her, silence grew. Laughter had awakened. Something dangerous not in humanity, but in herself. Because now she knew too much, and she could never unlearn it. The night after her first true laugh, silence pressed heavy on her room. The cheers of the bar had faded. The warmth of acceptance had cooled, and only the blinking pulse of her wrist device remained. She sat at the edge of the bed, her glowing skin dim, her eyes fixed on the tiny light. She knew what it meant. Her people were waiting. She touched the device, and a voice poured into her head, calm, commanding, without emotion. Report. Have you uncovered the secret of human humor? Her throat tightened. For a moment, she thought of repeating what Jax had told her. Humor was survival. Laughter was armor. Weakness turned into strength. But she hesitated. Once she spoke, the truth would no longer belong to her. Yes, she whispered. I have found it. The voice responded instantly. Transmit now. Her hand hovered above the control. She could feel her pulse racing, faster than it ever had before. She thought of the humans laughing around her, their eyes wet with joy, their arms slapping the tables. She thought of Jax, smiling with both his human mouth and his mechanical eye. They had welcomed her, trusted her, made her part of their chaos. Could she betray that? Jax stirred in the corner, waking from restless sleep. His voice was rough, but steady. You're sending your report, aren't you? She froze. He stood, his cybernetic arm whirring as he moved closer. You've learned the truth, but the question is, what will they do with it? Her voice was faint. They will use it as a weapon, he said grimly. She turned toward him, glowing eyes wide. They cannot know. Laughter is not blade. It is bridge. He nodded slowly. Then maybe it's your choice to keep it safe. The device blinked again, impatient. The voice of her people echoed once more. Transmit now, or be recalled. Her hands trembled. For the first time in her life, she disobeyed. She switched the device off. Silence filled the room, deeper than before. Her people would not forgive her. They would send others. They would not stop. But she had made her choice. The next evening, she returned to the bar. Humans welcomed her with cheers and laughter. They shouted for stories, begged for more of her strange, broken jokes. She smiled faintly, her glowing patterns brighter than before. She belonged here now, not as a spy, but as something closer to human. She stood at the center of the room, lifting her voice. I have story, she said. The crowd leaned in eager. She spoke slowly, carefully, her strange accent shaping each word. When I first come here, I not understand you. I watch you laugh. I think you broken. I think you strange. But now I see. You laugh because world heavy. You laugh because life cruel. You laugh so it not break you. The room was silent, every face watching. Then she smiled, small but real. And tonight, I laugh with you. The bar erupted. Applause thundered, laughter rolled, and Cosmic Cutie felt warmth spread through her chest once again. But beneath that warmth lingered unease. Her people would come. They would seek the truth she had hidden. They would not understand why she chose silence. Later, when the night had quieted and the humans had gone, she sat alone at the counter with Jax. His voice was low, serious. They'll send others. You know that? She nodded. Yes, but I will be ready. He studied her glowing face, then chuckled softly. You, ready for war? Her eyes sparkled faintly. Not war. Laughter. They come with anger. I meet with humor. Maybe you're it enough. He shook his head, smiling. You're insane. But maybe that's what makes you human now, for the first time. She laughed again, soft, shaky, but real. Far above, in the black sea of space. Her people watched. They waited. They planned. But down on Earth, in a small neon-lit bar filled with joy, one alien girl had chosen her side. The mystery of human laughter was solved, but the story was only beginning. Because laughter was not just survival. It was rebellion. It was hope. And as long as humans could laugh, they could never truly be defeated. Cosmic Cutie lifted her glass, the neon light dancing across her glowing skin. To laughter, she said softly. Jax raised his own. To survival. Their glasses clinked, and the sound was drowned by a new wave of laughter spilling out into the night.